Clark, a junior, is college basketball's biggest star after recording the first triple-double with 40 or more points in the history of the NCAA men's and women's tournaments on March 26. In doing so, she led the Hawkeyes to their first Final Four since 1993. They faced defending national champion South Carolina during one of Friday's semifinal games in Dallas. Although the chaos of March has made Clark more prominent than ever, the 21-year-old guard has been one of basketball's elite players for quite some time. Here's everything you need to know about the Iowa standout. Early life and high school career. Clark was born January 22, 2002, and grew up in West Des Moines, Iowa. She is the daughter of Brent Clark and Anissa Clark and has two brothers, Blake and Colin. Her father played baseball and basketball at Simpson College, while Blake is a reserve quarterback and the holder for the Iowa State football team. According to Inside the Hawkeyes, Clark grew up playing sports with her brothers in their backyard. Because of limited opportunities for girl basketball players, she played on an all-boys team in elementary school. Clark tried many different activities, including volleyball, soccer, softball, tennis, and piano, but fully committed to basketball around 6th grade, according to Hawk Central. She joined the All-Iowa Attack Travel Program, a powerhouse that produced at least 6 NCAA Division I recruits in the high school class of 2023, and continued to excel. She played against high school seniors in 8th grade and was one of the top basketball prospects in the country by her sophomore year at Dowling Catholic High School. Clark was the Gatorade Iowa Player of the Year her junior and senior seasons and became a 2-time Max Preps and USA Today All-America selection. She also won a gold medal with the United States U19 national team at the FIBA Basketball World Cup in 2019. Clark's career at Iowa so far. As a freshman at Iowa in 2020-21, Clark picked up right where she left off in high school, starting 30 games and leading the country in points scored, total assists, three-pointers, and total field goals. She was named Big Ten Freshman of the Year and First Team All-Conference, in addition to Second Team All-America by the Associated Press. Her sophomore season, Clark became the first NCAA women's player to lead Division I in points and assists per game with 27 and 8, respectively. She was a finalist for the Naismith Women's Player of the Year, given annually to the top player in the country, but lost to South Carolina's Aaliyah Boston. Clark also recorded back-to-back triple-doubles with 30 points, something only NBA greats Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Luka Doncic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo have accomplished since 2000. But success in the NCAA tournament eluded Clark and Iowa. The Hawkeyes reached the Sweet 16 in 2021 before falling to perennial title contender Connecticut. Then in 2022, the Hawkeyes were among the favorites as a number 2 seed but shockingly lost to 10th seed Creighton in the second round. Clark had a miserable game as the Jays constantly rotated defenders. She made only 4 of her 19 shots and scored 15 points. Which brings us to this year's big dance. Clark's historic NCAA tournament. Clark averaged a double-double with 26 points and almost 11 rebounds per game over the Hawkeyes' first 3 NCAA tournament wins this March, but saved her record-setting performance for the Elite 8 game against Louisville on March 26. She had 41 points, 10 rebounds, and 12 assists, a stat line Iowa coach Lisa Bluder called mind-boggling in Iowa's 97-83 win. Clark's 41 points were the most of any NCAA tournament triple-double and second most of any triple-double in women's Division I history. LSU's Cornelia Gayden had 43 on January 2, 1995, according to ESPN. The record-setting performance also made Clark the first Division I men's or women's college basketball player to pile up 900 points and 300 assists in a single season. When I came here, I said I wanted to take this program to the Final Four, and all you've got to do is dream, Clark said after the win over Louisville, according to CNN. And all you've got to do is believe and work your butt off to get there. That's what I did, and that's what our girls did, and that's what our coaches did, and we're going to Dallas, baby. The junior also went viral for directing John Cena's famous "You Can't See Me" gesture toward Louisville player Hailey Van Lith during the game, earning a shout-out from the actor and WWE superstar on Tuesday. And with 3:11 left and Iowa up 15 points, cameras caught Clark apparently pointing at the scoreboard and telling Van Lith to shut up during an exchange. Don't worry, the two are friends from their time with the Team USA U19 program in 2019, so the smack talk was likely all in good fun. The second-seeded Hawkeyes now face their biggest test yet in number 1 South Carolina, which enters the Final Four undefeated at 36-0. Only time will tell if Clark can bolster her already legendary tournament run with another Iowa victory and a spot in this Sunday's national championship. How dominant has Caitlin Clark been for Iowa basketball? A historically good week and a historically good career continued Thursday, as Iowa Hawkeyes star Caitlin Clark was named the Associated Press National Player of the Year, one day after she received the Naismith Award as women's college basketball's best player. The awards come performance as Caitlin Clark did. None have come particularly close. Caitlin Clark has the ability to tilt the court. A key reason why Clark has so much success is that she can shoot with impressive accuracy from anywhere on the court. She scores at an above-average rate on every type of shot: layups, mid-range jumpers, three-pointers, the list goes on. When you're defending Caitlin Clark, nowhere is safe. Defenses have to pick their poison. Letting Clark have an open look means more points surrendered, on average, than against most other players. But focusing defensive efforts on Clark draws attention away from the Hawkeyes' other threats, like Monica Chinano, who makes more than 2 of every 3 field goals she attempts, usually around the basket, or McKenna Warnock or Kate Martin, each of whom are shooting at a rate greater than 39% from beyond the arc. Fouling is not an option either. Clark's free throw percentage of 83.6% is well above average, ranking 69th in the nation. Through 3 seasons, Caitlin Clark's college career already among the best ever. Iowa fans know Clark's hasn't suddenly gained basketball superpowers. She's been doing this since she arrived in Iowa City 3 years ago. Clark led the nation in points scored each of her first 2 seasons. Villanova's Maddie Siegrist is the only reason she hasn't accomplished that feat again this season, despite scoring more points, 984, than she ever has before. That's fine, Clark will just have to settle for leading the nation in both three-pointers and assists for the second time in 3 seasons. Clark assisted on a whopping 48% of her teammates' field goals this season. No other Division I player in the country assisted on more than 42% of their teammates' buckets. Clark's 2022-23 season was the 3rd time she appeared among the top 50 individual seasons in points, and the 2nd time she appeared among the top 50 individual seasons in assists, both since 2001, as recorded by College Basketball Reference. It was also her best yet, as her season ranked 5th since 2001 in both categories. No other player has ever made the top 5 in both lists. Clark still has 1 more season before she'll be eligible to declare for the WNBA draft, which should give her plenty of time to chase down the players at the top of the collegiate career leaderboards. She ranks 28th in career points and 21st in career assists, but if she were to repeat her totals from this season, she'd jump to 1st and 2nd on those lists, respectively. Already, Clark's per-game stats put her in unprecedented territory. Clark has scored 27 points per game in her collegiate career, more than anyone since 2001. Her 7.98 assists per game place her in 4th. Basketball has an advanced metric called points produced that aims to measure the number of points a player produces, directly and indirectly. Based on that metric, it's clear that women's college basketball has never seen a player like Caitlin Clark. Not only does Clark produce more points per game than anyone else, but the difference between her and 2nd place is larger than the difference between 2nd and 15th. At this point, Clark doesn't have much more to prove, but winning a national championship would certainly be a nice feather in her cap. She's 2 games away from accomplishing that, but Friday will be the Hawkeyes' toughest challenge yet. Iowa women's basketball standout Caitlin Clark named AP National Player of the Year. Another day in Dallas, another national award heading Caitlin Clark's way. The Iowa superstar was named the Associated Press National Player of the Year Thursday morning, 1 day after she won the Naismith Trophy at the Reunion Tower in Dallas. These are the first of several Player of the Year awards likely heading Clark's way. "This is what I've loved to do ever since I was a young girl," said Clark, whose Hawkeyes will face top-seed South Carolina in Friday's Final Four matchup. "I'm lucky I get to do it on the biggest stage with my best friends. Everything else has come along with that, whether at awards, wins, championships. It's because we have fun playing basketball." 18 times this season Clark has poured in 25-plus points, 5-plus assists and 5-plus rebounds, an NCAA record. She's the only player in the country with more than 950 points, 300 assists, 240 rebounds and 45 steals this year. Clark is also the first player in Division I women's basketball history with more than 900 points and 300 assists in the same campaign. It's no surprise Clark ranks top 5 nationally in at least 10 offensive categories. This year alone, Clark has been named the Big Ten Player of the Year, a unanimous first-team AP All-American, and now has racked up a pair of Player of the Year awards. After Clark missed out on the Player of the Year accolades last season, Iowa fans might have rioted had the awards not come Clark's way this season. "They love our team so much," Clark said. "I think they can see the love, the joy, the passion we have for one another. They've been in Carver Hawkeye Arena all season long. They've seen the product we're producing. Hawkeye fans are like no other. And neither is Clark." Six awesome facts about Caitlin Clark ahead of Iowa's Final Four meeting with South Carolina. Iowa's Sweet 16 game against Louisville drew 2.5 million viewers on Sunday, more than any NBA game on ESPN this season. A big part of that draw was the incredible Caitlin Clark, the Naismith Player of the Year and two-time Big Ten Player of the Year, who absolutely didn't disappoint with a 41-point triple-double to push Iowa to the Final Four. With a meeting against the reigning national champion South Carolina awaiting the Hawkeyes Friday, that viewership could soar even higher, meaning more people will be introduced to Clark for the first time. For those looking to learn more about the Iowa star before the big game, here are a few fun facts about Clark and her basketball journey. 1. She's a homegrown star. Clark didn't just randomly choose Iowa for school. She's a homegrown star, born and raised in West Des Moines, Iowa, just 2 hours from the university. Playing her high school ball at Dowling Catholic, she led the state in scoring twice and was named Iowa Gatorade Player of the Year her senior season. 2. She has 3 Team USA gold medals. Clark has enjoyed success on Team USA, winning gold medals in the 2019 and 2021 FIBA U19 World Cups and also the 2017 FIBA Americas U16 Championship. The 2021 title came with World Cup MVP honors for Clark, who had just finished her freshman year at Iowa. 3. Fastest player to 2,000 career points. Clark eclipsed 2,000 career points in her 75th career game, which tied Elena Del Dunn for the fastest in NCAA division. Our women's basketball history. Her career high is 46 points, which she scored in a loss to Michigan last February. It's one of 7 40-point games in her career, including 3 this season. 4. She scores and dishes. Not only is Clark the country's third leading scorer at 27.3 points, she also leads the country in assists at 8.6 per game. She's the only player in Big Ten Conference history to reach top 10 all-time in both categories. That's also led to 11 career triple-doubles, which are tied for the second most all-time behind Sabrina Ionescu. 5. She has the highest scoring triple-double in tourney history. If you did happen to catch Clark's game against Louisville where she had 41 points, 10 rebounds and 12 assists, you were watching history. Clark became the only player in women's or men's NCAA tournament history to record a 40-point triple-double. In fact, she could have stopped 11 points sooner and still been the first player with a 30-point triple-double. 6. She has 2 years of eligibility left. A junior, Clark will return to Iowa for at least one more season next year, where she can shatter quite a few more records. But if she really wants to put some records out of reach, she can use her COVID year for a 5th season of eligibility. But with a long pro career awaiting her, I'm not sure that should be expected. Caitlin Clark comments on setting new record in men or women's NCAA tournament. Caitlin Clark had a performance for the ages as she propelled Iowa into the Final Four of the NCAA women's basketball tournament on Sunday. The junior guard finished with 41 points, 10 rebounds and 12 assists as the second-seeded Hawkeyes beat 5th-seeded Louisville 97-83. It was the first time in tournament history, men's or women's, that a player scored at least 30 points en route to a triple-double. This is probably the biggest game I played in, but I honestly felt it was one of the most calmness I've ever felt before a basketball game in my life, she told reporters after the game. I believed, and I visualized to be in this press conference with a hat and a shirt around me. So here we are. Reaching the national semifinals was the culmination of a dream for the native of West Des Moines, Iowa. For Clark and Iowa, the biggest test of the season could await in the Final Four. They'll play the winner of number 1 South Carolina versus number 2 Maryland, and the reigning champion Gamecocks have been suffocating in the big dance so far. After running the table in the regular season, Dawn Staley's squad hasn't allowed more than 45 points in any of its first 3 tournament games. UCLA managed to score just 15 points through the first half against South Carolina in the Sweet 16. Should the two cross paths, perhaps Clark's singular ability to influence a game offensively could be the thing needed to topple the Gamecocks. Caitlin Clark has been a human highlight reel ever since joining Iowa in 2020, but she was dominating long before college. Because filming middle school basketball games is a thing for some reason, a mixtape has resurfaced from Clark in 8th grade. Long before suiting up for the Hawkeyes, Clark was draining three-pointers and making precision passes. Courtesy of Courtside Films, here's a look at her highlights in a game from many years ago. Since committing to Iowa as a 5-star recruit, Clark has averaged 27.2 points, 8.0 assists, and 7.0 rebounds per game. She won the Wooden Award and was named the AP and Naismith College Player of the Year last season before steering the Hawkeyes to the national championship game. Of course, a 2-minute compilation of someone's best moments isn't an accurate scouting method. But Clark's game appeared far more polished than the typical adolescent. Last year, and Anissa Morrow, who averaged a 25-point double-double at DePaul. Both committed to continue their college careers in Baton Rouge. The reigning national champions will be the favorites to repeat. Assuming that everything comes together in terms of chemistry and all of that, the Tigers are going to be a problem. As soon as Morrow and Van Lith announced their decisions, the conversation switched to who can beat them. Caitlin Clark is the way. While Dawn Staley's South Carolina team is always going to be near the top of contenders, it was Clark who is being tapped as the likely giant slayer. She, to many, is women's college basketball's only hope of taking down the mighty Bay Bengals. Amidst the debate, Clark's lifetime highlights started to resurface. Her Iowa tape is a lot of fun to watch, and her high school film is special. Of all of her mixtapes, though, Clark's 8th grade highlights stand out. Clark has always been like that, even at 13-14 years old. And now, nearly 10 years later, she is tasked with toppling the mighty Tigers. It's not an easy thing to do, but if anyone can, it's Clark. It's not too late to hop on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon. Her highlight reels show just how sensational she's been for the University of Iowa this season, dribbling down the court and draining loom three-pointers from the half-court logo, crossing up defenders and going to the rim, no-look passes, rebounds and steals. Her heroic efforts have landed the Hawkeyes in the Final Four for the first time in 30 years. The school's next game is Friday, March 31st, a showdown against the reigning champions, the University of South Carolina, the team former President Barack Obama picked to repeat. The junior guard tells that she and her team are ready. They have prepared all season with one goal in mind: win it all. We're not done, she says. We're going to go in there with the mentality of going 1-0 every single time we take the court. It's not any different than the first game that we played at the beginning of the season. Sure, the stage is probably bigger. Yes, there's more cameras, but we don't have to be anything other than what we've been all year. You can't see Caitlin. Clark is averaging 27.3 points per game this season, the third most in all of Division I women's college basketball, and is part of a starting lineup that also includes Monica Chinano, Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin and McKenna Warnock. Iowa advanced to the Final Four with a win over the University of Louisville on March 26th, with Clark tallying 41 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds and 3 steals, marking the first time in the men's or women's NCAA tournament that a player has notched a 40-point triple-double. In the game before that, against the University of Colorado, she had 31 points and 8 assists. It comes from our early exit last year, the college superstar says about her remarkably consistent high-level play, referring to how Creighton University ousted Iowa from the NCAA Tournament last year in the second round. Losing to Creighton put a fire under our belt, she says. We were lucky enough to have all 5 starters coming back on, and a lot of teams don't get to have that for 3 years, so I think that was pretty special. After her 6th three-pointer against Louisville in the March 26th game, the sharpshooter celebrated by doing the "you can't see me" hand gesture, waving her hand in front of her face. The moment went viral on Twitter, and it even caught the attention of John Cena, who made the gesture famous during his WWE days. "Even if they could see you, they couldn't guard you," he tweeted to her. Clark tells what prompted the gesture. "I actually looked at our player development coach and I was like, I'm not fazed. I'm locked in. That's what I said. So I was just, more than anything, locked in. And I looked right at her." She says the gesture was an extension of how she felt before the game. "I had a calmness about me before that game started," she describes. "I had a really good feeling that it was going to be a really good game for us. I thought that's exactly what we did, especially when we got off to kind of a little bit of a rough start, we responded really well." She says bouncing back was thanks to the experience of the core group having played together for the last 3 years. "Nothing really frazzles us and all we could do is respond, and that's exactly what we did," she said of their game plan. The Big Ten Player of the Year and 2023 Naismith Player of the Year winner says, "This whole team has just found a lot of confidence in one another, and that's what has carried us to this point. We're not always the most athletic or the fastest or can jump the highest, but we just play for one another and have a love for one another that carries us really far." The work that goes into her long threes. Clark says she is not just haphazardly attempting shots from beyond the three-point line and hoping they go in. Even Steph Curry described her long shots as a strategic decision that defenses have trouble guarding. "Those are shots that I work on all the time when I'm in the gym," she says. "That's just the biggest thing. It's not like I just get into games and just start chucking them up. When I'm in the gym working, those are shots that I'm taking." She also said getting stronger over the course of her career means she's able to extend her range. Her coaches and teammates see that and have given her freedom to shoot as she sees fit. "The biggest thing is the more I back up, my form doesn't change," she said. "My shot mechanics don't change, and if they did, I wouldn't be allowed to shoot those, and I probably wouldn't make them." After putting in the hard work during practice and games, there are certain ways she likes to unwind. "It's something weird about me. Like, I can't eat right after a game, so I just try to drink as much liquid as I can, relax, hopefully have a massage. Those are my favorite things to do. And then, obviously, sleep. Come on now, that's the best part," she said, laughing. Steph Curry of women's college basketball. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith recently called Clark the Steph Curry of women's college basketball. Curry himself has explained to ESPN why she's an excellent shooter. Clark, who will be eligible for the WNBA draft in 2024, shies away from comparisons to the Golden State Warriors superstar. "Oh man, I do not think I'm in the same category as him," she says, adding that though she's aware of what is said about her, they haven't spoken yet. "To have a somebody I grew up watching, and still idolize, take time to watch your game, and then comments on you, is pretty special and kind of takes you back for a second," she says. She rattles off some of his attributes as a player: rarely dunks, finishes around the rim, plays off the dribble, and says, "Those are a lot of the skills that I want to have, too." Helping the game grow. Clark has been one of the faces of women's college basketball during a watershed time for the sport. It was only last year that the sport was allowed to use the term March Madness for its postseason play, a moniker that has been used in men's college basketball since 1982. During the 2021 NCAA tournaments, women's basketball players and staff posted to social media pictures of their weight rooms compared to the men's, exposing stark differences in what was available at each tournament. The NCAA originally said it was due in part to spacing constraints, but later apologized and upgraded the women's weight rooms. In addition, viewership for the women's game has been on the rise. The 2022 women's tournament overall averaged 634,000 viewers per game, a 16% increase from 2021, according to a recent Associated Press story. Regular season games on ESPN during the 2022 to 2023 season averaged over 190,000 viewers, making it the most viewed regular season since 2015. "The biggest thing is just helping the game grow," Clark says. "Our game has grown tremendously just over the past few years, and it needed to because things weren't equal. I think the product that we can produce at the women's college level, but also at the professional level, is pretty tremendous." She said the challenge is getting naysayers to give women's basketball a chance. "It's just having the opportunities and getting people in the seats, and getting people to turn on the TV," she says. "Once they see the product, they keep coming back for more." She says her team and other championship contenders are proof of that. "Our team is doing a tremendous job of giving people joy and a reason to turn on the TV and watch women's basketball," she says. "We've had a belief that we could be here. We spoke to Clark just hours before South Carolina defeated the University of Maryland on March 27 to clinch its spot in the Final Four against Iowa. The tournament's championship game will be played April 2nd. The three-pointer connoisseur gave props to South Carolina for being such a tremendous team with a head coach, Dawn Staley, who is one of the greatest ever. We're going to have to play a really, really good game, and we're going to have to shoot the ball really well," she says. "But I don't even think it's playing with a chip on our shoulder. I think it's just having a confidence about ourselves. That's what we've been playing with this whole tournament. We've had a belief that we could be here and be in the Final Four playing against the best because we believe we're right there with them," she says. The NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament concluded with the LSU Tigers defeating the Iowa Hawkeyes and by the score of 102-85. There are a number of highlights to point out from the game. It was the LSU women's first national title. Kim Mulkey became the first coach to win titles with multiple programs, Baylor, and the Tigers' 102-point effort was the highest score in women's Final Four history. All of that awesome history was made, and yet, because of how the internet works, it was a brief incident of taunting that is driving the narrative of the game's recap. First and foremost, it is important to point out that this year's tournament was one of, if not the greatest women's tournament of all time. What the Iowa and LSU programs accomplished individually created waves in the basketball community and offered immediate growth to the game of women's basketball. Additionally, while we will share the context of what transpired between the star players of the game, the general context of our discussion will lie in competitive nature and the incidents that arise within it, rather than taking a stance of right or wrong in this particular instance. What happened between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? Iowa's star guard, Caitlin Clark, is one of the best players in women's basketball today. Her collegiate career was legendary, and she has a promising future in the WNBA ahead of her. She took the national media by storm in the semifinal round of the tournament, however, for a reason outside of her stellar play. Clark waved off her assignment because the opponent was not a threat to shoot, and a narrative of her being disrespectful and cocky was born. In reality, while there is a bit of taunting included in the clip above, Iowa's entire game plan in that semifinal game was to keep their opponent, who had underwhelming shooting stats, on the perimeter. Additionally, in the Elite 8 round, Clark was seen on camera flashing a "you can't see me" taunt after burying her sixth three-point shot in their game against Louisville. These are the two events that transpired ahead of Sunday's championship game that led to some controversy. LSU star forward, Angel Reese, took note of Clark's actions and used them against her in the championship game celebration. She flashed the "you can't see me" in her face and made repeated gesture to her ring finger as time was expiring on the clock. After the game, Reese cited Clark's disrespect to her opponents in the semifinal game and unlimited shooting range. But for as talented and awe-inspiring as Clark herself is, Bluder deserves some credit too. Because she lets Clark be exactly who she is. But as Bluder herself admits, it took time to cede control. Her freshman year, "I definitely had some times I was pulling my hair out," Bluder said Thursday, as Iowa prepared to take on overall #1 seed South Carolina in one of two Final Four games. There's no doubt about it. She had to learn how to play with other players that were good players. In high school she had to do it all on her own. I remember going to her high school games and kids yelling "overrated" to her from the stands. I just would love to see them today. Like Curry, Clark has a separate set of rules. Clark is often compared to NBA All-Star Steph Curry because of their shared, seemingly limitless range. But the 6-foot junior is similar to the Golden State Warriors star in another way, too. She thrives because she has freedom. Bluder understood early that with a player of Clark's caliber, a controlled offense was not the way to success. We had to learn, it was give and take, Bluder said. It wasn't all controlling what she did because I think, when you try to stifle somebody like that, you're ruining a little bit of the type of player they are. What she does on her own is special. If you were trying to tell her exactly what a good shot is, what a good shot for her is totally different than what a good shot for somebody else is. So she has a little separate set of rules, quite honestly, than other people because she can do things other people can't do. Warriors coach Steve Kerr had to learn to do the same with Curry. In 2021, Kerr told radio hosts Damon Bruce and Ray Ratto of 95.7 FM The Game, he was taking shots that, in my basketball blood, every coach I ever had would have a heart attack watching those shots. I had to get over what was instilled in my brain about what was a good shot and what was a bad shot. With Steph, you have to understand, part of what makes him so powerful is that he's going to steal the ball at midcourt and pull up from 40 feet. Steph Curry's dad Del Curry, who played 16 years the league and is the Charlotte Hornets' all-time leader in points and three-point field goals made, told USA Today Sports he sees the similarities in his son and Clark, too. That freedom, it starts with trust, your coach trusting that you've put in the work and that for you, those are good shots, Del Curry said. I always say, we have a lot of shot takers in basketball. We need more shot makers. To make those shots, obviously not everyone has that fortitude. But in the way that Steph has changed what's a good shot in the NBA, she has absolutely done the same in the women's game. People forget Clark's passing ability. Bluder knew she was getting a special player when Clark showed up in Iowa City. But even she finds herself rendered speechless sometimes. I call them oh wow moments and we get a lot of oh wow moments with her, Bluder said after Clark scored 31 and dished 8 assists in Iowa's 97-83 win over Colorado in the Sweet 16. These passes that she does, it doesn't surprise us in games because she does them all the time in practices. She's an amazing passer, and I think sometimes people forget that. They talk about her range, her shot release and stuff. But it's her passing, I think, that makes her the most spectacular player that we have in America right now. Clark deserves credit too, for her maturity and growth from last season to this one. She's noticeably better at recognizing when she's not hitting and dialing back her shot attempts, instead feeding teammates who are hot. Her turnovers are down and assists up, as she better understands who can catch what and where. The extra 10 feet on the college court has also played a role, because Clark has more room to work. Sometimes Bluder can't help but enjoy the show. When Clark tallied a triple-double in Iowa's regional final defeat of Louisville with 41 points, 12 assists and 10 rebounds, the 23-year veteran Iowa coach stood on the sideline, trying to hide the smile playing at her lips. She knows that what she's watching is rare, and she better live in the moment as much as anyone. Now, for the best part, Clark's brilliance will be on display on college basketball's biggest stage this weekend, and many are sure to watch. They are in for a show. And they have Bluder to thank. After a month of doing what no woman had done before, Caitlin Clark did what athletes do all the time. She had tears in her eyes, a towel around neck and her head on teammate's shoulder. She had no more basketball to play and nothing she could do about it. Monica Chinano was there to provide support, emotionally and physically, but no support was enough, emotionally or physically. Clark buried her head deeper into Chinano's shoulder. Clark introduced herself to so many sports fans during this NCAA tournament, but now all she could think about was goodbye. Chinano's Iowa career is over. It ended with the Hawkeyes' 102-85 loss to LSU in the national championship game. Iowa fans will remember Chinano, many sports fans will forget. Basketball is a star-driven sport in a star-obsessed world, and Caitlin Clark could become the biggest star the women's game has ever seen. But there, in a hallway outside Iowa's locker room at American Airlines Center, Clark was far more concerned with where she has been than where she is going. She walked to her post-game press conference with Chinano, a few steps ahead of Iowa coach Lisa Bluder, a ball of frustration and exhaustion and pride and disappointment, and she mostly kept it together until she started talking about children and home. Then she thought of all the little Iowans who followed her every move and she cried again. "I was just that young girl," Clark said. "All revolutions must begin somewhere." Clark will always be grateful for where she started hers. What did we just watch? It was something more than a basketball tournament, something bigger than a national championship. Clark broke scoring records and viewership records. She made casual fans swoon and left Hall of Fame coaches wordless. Clark went to her state's flagship university to play a game and became the reason we watch sports. She scored 41 points in the Elite Eight and 41 more in an upset of the nation's best team, South Carolina, but if you only looked at the box scores, you got the plot but missed the movie. The deep threes. The yo-yo dribbles followed by no-look passes. The leaning layups. All of it in the fast flow of the game, with 10 arms trying to swat the ball away. Clark painted masterpieces on the side of moving buses. There is no number for this, but it's clearly true. Caitlin Clark has made more fans prefer women's basketball to men's than anybody ever. Teammate Kate Martin calls her unguardable. This is not the same as unstoppable. The loss to LSU was Iowa's 7th of the year. Clark misses shots and commits turnovers. But there is really no way to force her to play, no scheme that weakens her discernibly. If you trap her, she will pass to a teammate and leave you scrambling. If you get in her face, as South Carolina did, she will drive and score. If you provide help in the lane, she will fire a pass to an open teammate. If you sag off her, you're too dumb to coach basketball. Martin, who made more than 40% of her threes this year, says she knows better than to play HORSE with Clark. One minute you think you're going to guard her a certain way, LSU coach Kim Mulkey said Saturday, then you watch the film and change your mind and go, oh, that's not going to work. If it were as easy as Clark made it look, she would have done it all before. Clark never won a high school state championship. Can you believe that? Dowling Catholic in West Des Moines won 5 titles from 1992 to 2014, but none with the best player the state ever produced. Clark went to Iowa City and immediately poured lighter fluid on the rest of the Big Ten. She led the Hawkeyes to regular season and conference titles as a sophomore. She made All-American teams. By last spring, her career was not about how well she could play. It was about how big she could dream. 7 Hawkeyes, including Clark, played on the same AAU team, the Iowa Attack. Clark was not always the best of them. She did not really begin to separate herself until she hit 9th grade, and then she really separated herself. At Iowa, she was scoring in bunches and playing with her pals, which was wonderful but raised a question: could Clark become the player she wanted to be and still be the kid she was before? In the second round of last year's NCAA Tournament, Iowa was upset by Creighton. Clark missed 15 of 19 shots and was visibly frustrated. She dismissed her demeanor afterward as the inevitable spills from carrying so much competitive juice. "I think I'm an emotional player no matter the situation, good or bad. I think that's how I'm going to play, really. If we're winning, we're losing, I'm playing good, I'm playing bad." That kind of answer has worked for so many greats over the years. Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Serena Williams. But it wasn't quite right for Caitlin Clark from West Des Moines. Last Friday afternoon, before she took her pre-game nap and then put South Carolina to sleep, Clark met with Brett Ledbetter, a performance consultant who works with the Hawkeyes. Clark and Ledbetter were both in the same Dallas hotel, but they met on Zoom, the way they had on a weekly basis all season, so they could record the session. Ledbetter showed Clark a video clip from an Iowa scrimmage last October. "Hey, what do you see when you see that?" Ledbetter asked. "A different person," Clark said. Iowa's coaches had called Ledbetter last summer. They had a special player, they said, with high expectations. Clark had always been a joy to coach in so many ways. She listens. She works. Teammates say that what seem like magical bits of improvisation are actually moves she has practiced many times. Clark also burns to win. She took losses hard even in AAU ball when teams play a million games. Sometimes she would throw a water bottle or something, which wasn't a big deal until she was. Once a week, Ledbetter would meet with Clark, then the coaching staff, then the team. In their first meeting, Ledbetter asked Clark, "What's the difference between a leader and a performer?" Her response, "A performer executes their assignment, and a leader elevates their team." Clark focused on her actions between the actions, her body language and reactions when something went wrong. By the end of March, she could barely recognize herself. A team built around one superstar is susceptible to petty jealousies and double standards. The Hawkeyes had to address a very different problem. They were so close they were wary of calling anyone out. Iowa attack coach Dixon Jensen said during the Final Four, "This is a stage that they all dreamt up and never really thought it could ever happen." Put Clark at another school, and somebody would have winced when she missed a 25-footer. Put Clark at another school, and she might have tried too hard to blend in. At Iowa, the love was implicit and the roles were clear. Iowa was Caitlin's team, not just because she wanted that, but because her teammates did. This spring, the Hawkeyes played with such cohesive ferocity that it seemed like they never let up. But of course they did. They just didn't let up for long. The Hawkeyes began the second half of their Elite Eight game against Louisville like a team that was running late and forgot something: sloppy turnover, missed shot, frenetic and disjointed basketball. Louisville cut the Iowa lead to 48-47. Martin missed a three. She wished the Hawkeyes could have given LSU their best shot. But she did not wish she played anywhere else. She talked about Iowa, the fans from Iowa, the love from Iowa, and though she finished just short of the biggest dream an Iowan can have, she accomplished an even bigger one. This week, in gyms and driveways across the nation, little girls will pretend they are Caitlin Clark. Little boys, too. Caitlin Clark's Iowa basketball career is half over. What comes next? On a Tuesday morning during her summer break back home in West Des Moines, Caitlin Clark, naturally, can be found with a basketball in her hands. Clark is known for her logo shots, the ones she brashly drains with regularity from 30 feet and beyond. But today, she stands just 5 feet away from the rim. With her back to the hoop in a backyard home gym of a family friend, Clark, called the most entertaining player in college basketball by Yahoo Sports, is getting playfully frustrated that a new post move that she's practicing is off to a rough start. That's a travel. For sure. The consensus All-American guard for Iowa yells at herself. 810%. Her trainer of the past 5 years, Kevin O'Hare, is the one throwing her passes. He believes the most dynamic offensive player in the college game has lots of room to improve. O'Hare is getting her to work on going to her left and to use her rangy 6-foot frame to post up shorter point guards to generate an even greater offensive arsenal. With as many shooters as Iowa has and as good a passer as she is, if you get her in the post and they come with double teams, there's obviously going to be someone open, O'Hare says. And they shoot it at a high clip. I think that can add to her game. A lot. Clark tries the move again. Pump fake. Dribble between the legs. But she dribbles one too many times on her way to the rim. The next time, the move is exactly what O'Hare wants, and she scores after a power dribble with the left hand. Then she does it correctly again. And again. It is a scary proposition to opponents awaiting the 2022-23 Iowa women's basketball season that Clark is continuing to improve. After becoming the first Division I women's basketball player to lead the nation in scoring 27.0 points and assists 8.0 per game in the same season, and leading Iowa to a Big Ten regular season and conference tournament title and a number 2 seed in the NCAA Tournament, Clark says she's hungry as ever for more. Say we made it to the Final Four last year, I would still be working out like this, she says. That's just the way I am. The microphones and cameras are here for a reason. 1, because Clark, still just 20 years old, is a nationally known sports figure. But 2, because, as she recently came to grips with on Twitter, her college career is already halfway over. And that begs the question, what does Caitlin Clark have planned for her second act? Motivation is easy to find for Caitlin Clark. In today's college sports climate of transfer portals and nil collectives that essentially make everyone a free agent if they want to be, Clark would be attractive to any basketball program in the country. But Clark, who in October became the first college athlete, man or woman, to be sponsored by Hy-Vee, is a lifelong Iowan who doesn't desire to be anywhere else. What a gift for fans in Iowa and for Coach Lisa Bluder's Hawkeyes that Clark admittedly isn't distracted by money-making opportunities and wants to use these next 2 years to bring as much success as possible to her team. Yes, she could conceivably stay 3 more years by using a free COVID-19 year of eligibility, but 4 years of college then a pro career is the plan. A top 5 national recruit out of Dowling Catholic High School who could have gone anywhere in the country, Clark says after 2 years of college she absolutely made the right choice. I never want to leave Iowa, she says. I want to stay in college forever. As far as team goals go, taking Iowa to its second ever Final Four is atop Clark's list. Clark readily knows that the 2023 Final Four is in Dallas, and she pulls out her phone to reveal the latest Final Four logo atop her team's text message chat. Motivation is still pretty fresh, considering the Hawkeyes got knocked out of the NCAA Tournament in a second-round upset by 10th-seeded Creighton in March. She needs no reminder that she shot 4-19 from the floor in that 64-62 loss. Yet older brother Blake will occasionally text her a photo of Creighton players celebrating and the Carver Hawkeye Arena scoreboard. Leave it to an older brother to know how to stoke his sister's fire. It gets you going on the inside a little bit, Clark says. It just makes you want to work even harder and prove everybody wrong. Every starter is back off a Hawkeye team that overcame a ton of adversity, including a 2-week pause in season for a COVID-19 outbreak, mostly among the coaches, and February injuries to 2 key starters, to post a 24-8 record and twice cut down Big Ten title nets. That includes center Monica Chinano, who last season averaged 21.2 points per game and led the country with 67.9% shooting. It was a little hard for us from time to time, Clark says. But there was also that stride we hit at the end of the year where we were tremendous. And if we could play like that every single game, we're going to be unstoppable. And I think everybody around the country knows that, too. She is excited to spend the summer in Iowa City, starting in early June. Normally, Clark's summers are spent traveling the world with USA Basketball. Staying in Iowa will help her get acclimated to new teammates, including highly anticipated freshmen Jada Gyamfi, Taylor McCabe and Hannah Stjorka. Transfer point guard transfer Molly Davis, who averaged 18.6 points a game last year for Central Michigan, should help Clark get a little more backup and rest. The fast-paced Hawkeyes are using all 15 of their available scholarships with the hopes of building a deeper team than last year's. Practices are going to be super competitive. It's going to be a lot of people vying for playing time, Clark says. But if you want to go far, you need a deep team. If you look at national champion South Carolina, they have a lot of really good players, and Dawn Staley, goes to her bench quite a bit. Being able to develop a lot of people that are ready to go when their name is called will be huge for us. Individually, Clark has an ambitious agenda. Clark recently attended the state high school track meet, a rare opportunity to see younger brother Colin compete. She was stopped constantly for chats and photo opportunities. Clark continues to be surprised that she's a celebrity wherever she goes. I'm 20 years old. I come home and I do normal things. When somebody asks me for a picture, I'm like, I promise you, I'm not that cool, Clark says, laughing. I don't feel like I'm a celebrity or famous, but it's so cool for people to be excited about our game and our program. In an amusing story since she's been home the past few weeks, Clark says she was in Hy-Vee, Savvy Plug, and waiting for her mom near the floral section with her Starbucks coffee. A woman approached and asked where the Basil was located. Clark unassumingly pointed her in the right direction. I was working for Hy-Vee for a second, Clark says. It was funny. She started walking away, and she turns around and says, I think I know you. You had such an incredible year. That's the number one thing everybody says to me. It's like, we've never watched women's basketball before. We watch every single one of your games. For me, that's the coolest part. As Clark's college career enters the second half, she doesn't feel pressure to continue impressing people who are tuning in to see her logo shots and highlight reel passes. As Clark sees it, her stardom is helping to pull in new fans of her teammates. I had somebody come up to me the other day and was like, it seems like all you guys are just best friends, Clark says. And I'm like, yeah, we are. I swear. We love each other. We never get annoyed of each other. On the court, Clark has an agenda of individual goals. Number 1, better defense. According to her hoopstats.com, Clark's offense is in the 99th or 100th percentile in nearly every offensive category among Division I players. But as a freshman, her defense was graded in the 5th percentile. Like, horrible, she says. As a sophomore, her defense jumped to the 64th percentile. Continuing that progress is a priority, and staying out of foul trouble can help her cause. Now entering her junior year, she has a better idea of how opponents try to draw charges against her. Number 2, reducing her mistakes. Limiting turnovers is a huge one for me, Clark says, and that was talked about a lot in my post-season meeting with Bluder. Clark averaged 4.75 turnovers per game last season. In a mid-season loss to Maryland, she committed 10. She says she'll continue to push the envelope in her game but aim to make better in-game decisions. Number 3, keeping her cool. O'Hara is urging Clark to be less abrasive when contesting calls with officials. It's got to be when one of her teammates is shooting a free throw and she leans over to the ref and says, "Did you see that person grab me?" Just keep an eye on that, O'Hara says. It's those type of conversations, rather than the antics and all that. But that's something she's working on. Clark overhears O'Hara and grins. She's gotten better over the years at channeling her emotions, but there's always room to improve. This 1-hour training session is over. Clark on several occasions had her hands on her knees as sweat soaked her grey Hawkeye t-shirt. She's not taking it easy during the summer break. That was evidenced by a mid-range shooting drill, in which Clark takes 20 jump shots at 5 different spots just inside the 3-point line. On this day, Clark sets her personal best in 5 years of running this drill with O'Hara, canning 88 of 100 shots. Caitlin Clark is aiming to improve her inside game as she enters her junior season at Iowa. There's no doubt, Clark isn't satisfied with what she's accomplished in 2 years at Iowa. And she's still getting better. Being able to be here for 2 years, I know I definitely made the right choice, Clark says. Our program is really special. More than anything, I'm just grateful for everything that's unfolded, and it's been a lot of fun. But I'm just as hungry as ever for more.